Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video, wherever you are, whatever you may be doing. Thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd Family a part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. Hopefully everybody is geared up for another busy weekend, and this is about the last great weekend in the regular season in the world of college football. And I say that because next weekend, being the next to the last week of the regular season, almost everybody now has a tune-up game before they play their rival. Not everybody, but just about everybody has a tune-up game now. So almost every team in the big-time conferences next week plays either a low FBS team or an FCS school to tune up for their rivalry. So there's a few good games next weekend, but not a lot. And then, of course, rivalry weekend has some good games, but most of them are just not good. Most of them get all the hype because it's a rivalry, but the game in itself is not good. For instance, Florida and Florida State. Is anybody going to watch that game? Probably not. And then I believe USC plays Notre Dame rivalry weekends. Anybody going to watch that game? Probably not. So rivalry weekend has some good games, but for the most part, it's just a rivalry game, so it gets talked because of that. But the game in itself is just not any good. Hey there, 121. Glad to have you here. I'm about to discuss college football. We've already talked about all the games that are taking place tomorrow night and the game tonight. I even brought up the NFL game that's taking place tonight. But coming up on Saturday, starting at noon, we have Ohio State and Northwestern on the Big Ten Network. Hey there, Martin. Glad to have you here. Hey there, Rock. Glad to have you here. And I found out the other day something I didn't know, speaking of the Ohio State Northwestern game. It's on the Big Ten Network, but I did find out something about the big noon kickoff game on Fox. Hey there, Audie. Glad to have you here. That is, I did not know that when Fox signed this contract to carry a noon game every Saturday for the Big Ten Conference, that they cannot carry a game featuring Oregon, and I believe USC is the other team that they cannot carry because of the fact Oregon and USC are 3 hours behind us. So a noon game would be at 9 o'clock a.m. for either one of those teams, and who wants to play at 9 o'clock in the morning? So when Fox signed this contract, they agreed that they wouldn't ask to play an Oregon game or a USC game. Well, then the problem becomes, outside of Ohio State and Penn State, every other team in the conference this year is average. Now, granted, Indiana's really good now, but you didn't know that going into the season. When the season started, everybody thought Indiana was going to be a 5 or 6 win team. So basically, since you can't carry Oregon, who's the best team in the conference, every Saturday Fox is going to want to carry either Ohio State or Penn State because you want everybody to watch the noon game. Well, if you carry Minnesota and Rutgers, nobody's going to watch it. But then after a while, they get tired of seeing Ohio State and Penn State getting to be the big noon kickoff every single week. But you want that to be the time slot with your best conference game. That's the reason Fox started carrying the big noon kickoff, so the Big Ten's best game would be at noon. But you don't want Ohio State, Penn State every week, and then you can't carry Oregon, and that's why this Saturday they're carrying Utah and Colorado. Now, on paper, before the season started, everybody thought Colorado was going to be about as average as they were last year, and Utah would be really good. Instead, it's the opposite. Utah is about as average as you can get, and Colorado is really good. Colorado still has a chance to win their conference. Hey there, Alex. Glad to have you here. ABC at noon is carrying Arkansas and Texas. By the way, if you are watching live, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section. I already have a lot of comments, and I really appreciate that. And like the video and give the video a thumbs up. If you have not yet subscribed, please do so. It takes about 2 seconds, helps the channel out tremendously. Hey there, Blitz. Glad to have you here. I see you're a Tide fan, and that's awesome. Here's Izzy wanting to join the Army after high school. Any advice? No, Izzy, I honestly can't say that I have any personal experience, so I don't have any advice. I personally know people that have been either in the Army or the military or the Navy or the Air Force, but I personally did not do it. Now, on my dad's side of the family, my dad did it, his dad did it, and his dad did it. So on my dad's side, my great-grandpa, my grandpa, and my dad were all three in the Army, but I never had a desire to do it, so I didn't. So I can't give you advice because I never did it, and I'm not going to sit here and make up something and lie to you, but I hope that you follow that dream and join the Army, and let me know how it goes. Please stay in contact if you do decide to go to the Army. Noon on ESPN, we have Clemson and Pittsburgh. And of course, if you don't watch that game, then you're not watching the right game, because you have two choices. You either watch Clemson or you're wrong. Noon on ESPN2, Tulane and Navy. Louisiana Tech and Western Kentucky on the CBS Sports Network. Louisiana Monroe and Auburn at 12:45 on the SEC Network. And as bad as Auburn is offensively, it wouldn't surprise me to see Louisiana Monroe hang with them. I don't think they'll beat them, but Auburn can't score, so I don't see how they blow them out. Hey there, Maria. Glad to have you here. We have some weird game times this Saturday, and I'm not quite sure why, but normally most weeks it's noon, 3:30, 7, 7:30, and 8. Well, this Saturday we have all sorts of weird game time, just like this one at 2:30 on Fox Sports 1. We have Michigan State and Illinois, so FS1 is not carrying a noon game. They're carrying a 2:30 game, and it's Big Ten, Michigan State, Illinois. And then 3 o'clock on the CW is Syracuse and California. The reason why that game is 3 o'clock is because California is now in the ACC, and the game is in Berkeley. And of course, 3 o'clock on the East Coast is noon in California, so that game is an ACC game at 3 o'clock on the CW. And Maria, I'm not quite sure what you're talking about saying caveman, so you'll have to be more specific. Otherwise, I can't answer the question. 3:30 on CBS, Penn State, Purdue. NBC at 3:30 has Virginia and Notre Dame. Then on ESPN, we have Boston College and SMU. Now, Boston College came out, I believe it was on Tuesday, and said that their quarterback, Thomas Castellanos, was not going to be with the team for a couple days. Well, they pretty much came out today and said he's decided to transfer. I had a feeling it wouldn't work out because Bill O'Brien is now the coach for the Eagles, and Bill O'Brien is another old school coach that likes drop back passing quarterbacks, and Castellanos is not that. He likes to run the ball about 25 times a game and throw the ball about 15 times a game. So Bill O'Brien decided finally to go with the backup, who is now the starter, Grayson James. So Castellanos will be transferring. And speaking of quarterbacks, I mentioned probably about a month ago here on the channel that it wouldn't surprise me at all for DJU to try to get a medical red shirt and stay one more year in college, because everybody nowadays gets a medical red shirt, and he's been out since like week 5, I think, or 4. And sure enough, I saw this morning that he's announced he's going to try to get a medical red shirt, and he will return to Florida State next year, hopefully, if he gets that medical red shirt. I don't know why he wouldn't. He ain't played since, I'm pretty sure, week 5. He's been out hurt, and if everybody in football gets a medical red shirt now, I don't see why he can't get one. And speaking of medical red shirts, Dabo Swinney, who is normally pretty smart when he says stuff, and for whatever reason, people despise Dabo Swinney, so they ignore it. But he made a comment earlier this week, maybe it was on Tuesday, that he believes that college football needs to do away with the red shirt thing, because now with the playoffs, now you can still play 4 games in the regular season, plus your team's conference championship game if they play in that, plus your team's playoff games, and that does not count against your red shirt. So basically, you could play 9 games of the season and still get a red shirt. That's more than half the season. That pretty much defeats the whole purpose of the red shirt. That's dumb. So Dabo Swinney says they should just do away with the red shirt thing altogether and let all college football players get 5 years of eligibility, and that's it. And maybe on occasion a medical red shirt, but let's don't give somebody a medical red shirt because they missed 1 game. But if it's something major, give them one. If not, everybody gets 5 years, no more medical red shirts for the most part. No more red shirts. You just play 5 years, and you either go to the NFL or your football playing days are over with. Hey there, Joker. Glad to have you here. Hey there, Monkey. Glad to have you here. And I think that's a phenomenal idea, because now you've got, for instance, the Miami tight end in his 9th year of college football. That's just dumb. Nobody, under any circumstance, for any reason, should be in college playing football for 9 years. That is stupid. So I personally think Dabo's idea is genius and it's spot on, but of course they won't listen because Dabo said it. But wait a couple years and some other coach will say it, and they'll say, oh, what a great idea. And they'll act like that coach is the one that said it first. ACC Network, we have Louisville and Stanford. That's a 3:30 game. ABC, we have LSU and Florida. Now, I don't think Brian Kelly's getting fired, but there are some LSU fans who are ready to run him off because, for one, they didn't just get beat by Bama last week. They got destroyed at home at nighttime, and they claim that LSU's Tiger Stadium is the toughest night venue in the country, and they got destroyed last week. And what makes it worse is he left Notre Dame to go to LSU, and now Notre Dame is just as good, if not better than they were when he was there. So the LSU fans are really mad right now at Brian Kelly. CBS Sports Network, Oregon State, and Air Force. 4 o'clock on Fox, Nebraska, and USC. ESPN2, Baylor, and West Virginia. Still a lot of talk about either Jimbo Fisher or Nick Saban joining the Mountaineers coaching staff at some level next year, and I still say that's just somebody blowing smoke. 4 o'clock, we have James Madison and Old Dominion on ESPN. 4:15 on the SEC network, we have the Battle of the Columbias. The Columbia, Missouri Tigers against the Columbia, South Carolina Gamecocks. And that game will be played in Columbia. 6 o'clock, another weird start time, Saturday night. Fox Sports 1, Rutgers and Maryland. 7 o'clock, Boise State and San Jose State on the CBS Sports Network. ESPN has Arizona State and Kansas State. 7:30 on NBC, Oregon and Wisconsin. And if you watched my video from last night when I was talking about the game tonight and all the games tomorrow night, somebody actually got in the comment section and predicted that Wisconsin beats Oregon Saturday night. I wish I could recall who it was and I would tell you, but I honestly don't remember. But I made the comment that, I would love to see that, but I wouldn't pick that because I don't see it happening, but I would love to see it. 7:45 on the SEC network, New Mexico State and Texas A&M. 7:30, of course, on ABC, Georgia and Tennessee. As of this morning, Georgia is now a 10-point favorite in that game, something like that, because there's been talk all week long that Nico either won't play or will play a little bit or will play, but, he's really not going to run the ball at all because of his concussion. So I think pretty much everybody's convinced that Georgia wins the game because, first of all, it's a must-win because they lost last week. Plus, Georgia's the home team. Plus, if Nico doesn't play, I just don't see any scenario where Tennessee wins unless they score touchdowns on defense. Even though their defense is great, and I don't think Georgia's going to score much, without Nico, Tennessee's not going to score more than 10. And Georgia might not score a bunch, but they'll score more than 10. 8 o'clock on the ACC network, Wake Forest and North Carolina. 8 o'clock on Fox, Cincinnati and Iowa State. Iowa State, after their 7-0 start, they have lost 2 straight games, so they need to get this win and get back on the winning side. Bad. 8 o'clock on ESPN2, UAB and Memphis. 9:30 on Fox Sports 1, Washington State and New Mexico. Hey there, Piano. Glad to have you here. No, I am not tall. Well, I say I'm not tall, but I guess that depends on what you consider tall. In my opinion, I'm not tall. So Fox Sports 1 has a triple header on Saturday, but it's not the normal noon, 3:30, and 7 or 7:30. It's 2:30, 6, and 9:30. And Washington State is actually ranked right now, and I believe they're 8-1, but I don't know how much love they'll get since they're in the Pac-12, but right now they're one of only 2 teams in the Pac-12. 10:15 on ESPN is Kansas and BYU. And then the final game on Saturday at 10:30 on the CBS Sports Network, we have San Diego State and the UNLV. And hey there, Bryant. Glad to have you here. You are just in time. You almost joined too late. I just ran down the list of all the televised games on Saturday because I've already did videos this week about the games tomorrow night, the game tonight, the games we saw last night, and the games we saw Tuesday night. So today's video was about all the games coming up on Saturday, and you better enjoy Saturday because I'm telling you, next week there is not a lot of good games. BYU going to lose. Well, you might be right, but BYU could also be one of those teams this year that's the team of destiny. It seems like every week everybody picks them to lose. They've only been favored to win in like 3 of their games all year long, but yet somehow, some way they keep finding a way to win. But I do think they'll lose somewhere because going undefeated is just too hard. So it might not be this week, but I think they'll lose one somewhere before the season is over with. And Bryant, I know you are a Alabama fan, and I mentioned Alabama earlier, talking about them blowing out LSU last week because the game was at LSU, and everybody claimed that the toughest environment in college football is LSU's Tiger Stadium at nighttime, and Bama went there and beat them like a drum. So they made LSU's Tiger Stadium not seem like a very tough environment. Hey there, Tyler. Glad to have you here. Any thoughts on any of these games from Saturday or the game tonight, the games tomorrow night? Any thoughts on the college football playoff poll? Any predictions for Saturday? I think I said either in last night's video or my video earlier in the week, I think it was last night though, that I think Georgia beats Tennessee. And I kind of wish Nico was going to play, and he still might play. There's still no definitive answer. Josh Heupel is saying he will play, but the head coach is going to say that because if you come out in the middle of the week and say Nico's not going to play, then every Vol fan in America is going to say, oh no, we're beat. So, of course, Josh Heupel is going to say Nico will play, but still no definitive answer and word on whether or not he will. They put out their report for injuries yesterday, and he was listed as questionable. But if he doesn't play and Georgia wins, and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago in one of my videos talking about injuries, if Georgia wins and Nico doesn't play, then every Vol fan's going to say, well, if Nico would have played, would have won that game, even though you never know. There's no proof of that. That's just something that fans say. But if Nico plays and Georgia wins, you can't say that. But I think between the fact that Georgia lost last week, so this becomes a must-win game, and the fact that the game is at home in prime time and Georgia hasn't played a home game in about a month, I say whether Nico plays or not, it doesn't matter. Georgia wins the game. They beat Tennessee the last 2 or 3 years by like 3 touchdowns a game. I don't think it'll be that bad, but I think Georgia wins the game. Who do you think the worst team in college football is this year? That's a good question. There are some pretty bad teams. I think the worst team in all the Power 4 is either Florida State or Mississippi State, and Crack just said Mississippi State. It might be them, but as far as all of college football, including the Group of 5 conferences, it might be UAB and it might be Kennesaw State. Kennesaw State got a win a couple weeks back, but they're still pretty bad. Hey there, someone. Glad to have you here. And yes, Tyler, you are right. The Chiefs always will look good as long as they have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. But it's funny because this time last year, I believe they had 3 losses. And everybody wondered, what's wrong with the Chiefs? And now this year, they're undefeated, and everybody's saying, well, the Chiefs are playing bad. Makes 0 sense, but that's just what folks say when they watch football to start conversations. But I think among the Power 4 conferences, it's either Florida State or Mississippi State. Those 2 teams are awful. But amongst all of college football, including the Group of 5 conferences, I'll go with either UAB or Kennesaw State. Those teams are pretty bad. Hey there, John. Glad to have you here. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. A midget wrote a book about his life. It was a short story. And that does it for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.